So let's look at an argument from a prominent person. This is Ben Shapiro, someone who would say you can't be male biologically in terms of genitals and female in the brain, or female genitals with a male brain. You don't get to do that. And you can't make me acknowledge that that's how you feel. He likes to say things like that and then make fun of those who believe that or feel that way. So let's look at a clip from how he justifies his position.
This it, what I love about this particular debate is I think enough Americans are not insane that they will buy the argument that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, considering they have known this since they were small children. My daughter's 21 months old, and she can tell the difference between boys and girls.
Okay, so far he said, you're insane if you're not on my side, and you're less intelligent than my 21-month-old daughter. Okay, Ben, how about an argument or some evidence instead of some insults or trying to get people to get on your side so they're not an idiot? Creating cognitive dissonance works, but it's not an argument.
You have to be college educated to be this stupid. And guess what? Your brain, there's no such thing as a female brain existing in a male body. It just doesn't work that way. That's not how biology works. There's nothing more unscientific than this notion of magical transgender fluidity. It just doesn't, it's absolute BS in every possible way. Well, the federal government has now decided.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. The federal government thing, he goes on about a specific case, but you heard his claim. There's no scientific evidence for this, and it's a belief in magic. Have you looked into the evidence? Given that I have, and I know that you are objectively wrong on this issue, I'm going to say you haven't, and you just assumed your opinions were right. Or one of those really weak arguments like, well, I haven't seen the evidence, or no one's brought it to my face and showed it to me, so it must not be true. Good news is, I can help you and bring it right to your face. Okay, you heard it yourself. Ben claimed that there is no evidence in scientific literature, or that it would be magical to claim someone may have a male brain in a female body or a female brain in a male body. I take that as a personal challenge when you say that there isn't any evidence. I'm a researcher, I have access to journals, so I went looking. I already knew the answer. I'd already read some of these. Here's one example of dozens that show he is wrong. Have we established for sure the extent to which this is true? Of course not. It's still being investigated, but for the most part, the evidence suggests it's a very real biological thing to have male brain, female body, or female brain, male body. Let's look at this one article. Male to female transsexuals have female neuron numbers in a limbic nucleus. This explains that there is already established the number of neurons that are currently present in this part of the brain. In male brains, there tend to be a certain amount, and in female brains, a different amount, such that we expect if you are male, you'll have about a certain number, and female, a different number. And the existing literature suggests that it's pretty consistent, so that you can see what somebody's sex was from this. And they had the opportunity to dissect brains from people who had died, and in particular, transsexuals. And they wanted to know, do the number of neurons, which is a physical structure in the brain, we know there are big physical differences as well as functional differences in the brain between male and female. One of the established ones is this, and they said, let's look at it and see if the transsexuals actually have a brain that matches the gender they identified with. And that's exactly what they found. In fact, their last sentence summarizes it better than I think I could. The present findings of somatostatin neuronal sex differences in the BSTC and its sex reversal in the transsexual brain clearly support the paradigm that in transsexuals, sexual differentiation of the brain and genitals may go into opposite directions and point to a neurobiological basis of gender identity disorder. Does that sound like magic, Ben? Is there a complete absence of scientific evidence for the claim that gender does not always have to match with genitals? What if, Ben, someone had a number of neurons right in the middle between what we would expect for male and female? What then do you think they might experience? Do you think they might identify with both? And maybe both in different situations? And so they go from feeling male to feeling female? That's crazy, right? What would we call it? Like gender fluid or something? Okay, I couldn't resist. The more I looked into this, for somebody to claim there's no evidence, there is so much. And the first study I showed you was from 2000. This one is 2008. So Ben, come on, we've kind of known for a while how wrong you are. So one objection might be, oh, what about hormone treatment? Well, they control for that, just to get that out there. And this study mentions it specifically. They either study transsexuals who've never had hormone treatment, or they look at who had it for how long it's been since they've had it, and things like that, to make sure that it's not just the injection of hormones that changes the brain structures, because we think it would. So they control for that. So just so you know, that's not an excuse. You can't say, well, if they got hormone therapy, we're not that stupid as researchers. That is controlled for properly in these studies. Here's another one on hypothalamic nucleus uncinate. I'm not even trying to say that. I'm a psychologist, not a biologist. I just know how to interpret research. But they say relationship to gender identity. Here, there's an abstract which is pretty good. Very similar to the other study. They basically said there is a known pattern based on male versus female sex. And so let's look at transsexuals and see if their brain aligns with their sex or their gender. And the answer was it aligns with their gender. The best summary here is actually in the results, not in the abstract. Sometimes that's the case. They didn't summarize as well there. In the present study, we identified the uncinate nucleus and its two subnuclei, and they named them using immunocytochemical markers. The data show that there is indeed a sex difference in the subnucleus. So they're saying, again, there's a sex difference just looking in the traditional way, male versus female sex. That is reversed in transsexual people. That means, their biology in terms of genitals does not predict the way their brain looks. It's reversed, just like they tell us they feel they are. You know, those feelings that come from the brain, this brain that is physically and chemically different from what would be expected based on their genitals. Maybe, just maybe, we should listen to how people feel, since those feelings come from the very brain you're claiming can't be different from the sex they belong to. As they also say it is only partially influenced by alterations in sex hormone levels in adulthood. In other words, acknowledging those matter, but they don't explain this reversal or that people align with their identity in terms of their brain structure, something they couldn't have known until they died and participated in this study post-mortem. They only knew how they felt. The researchers are telling us that what they felt was from a physical basis in the brain. And they end with, we propose that the uncinate nucleus may be part of a brain network that is involved in gender identity. Wow, so it doesn't come from your genitals. We know this. Time to stop denying it. There is evidence that transsexualism is biological and that gender and sex do not need to match. And the reason they don't match is real, not a disorder of psychology, but a truth of biology. You could argue that these stem from some sort of mutation or hormonal issue. It is fair to talk about those things, but when someone tells you, I identify as a gender that does not match my sex, it appears from the evidence available to us that this is just a factual statement about how they have developed, and not a delusion or a desire to be the other gender. It is that their brain is more similar to males or females, and they've noticed and identify as such.